Hey there folks, and welcome to this video. We're going to be talking about Formula E. We're going to be talking about the Monaco ePrix. We're going to split it into two parts because it is two separate races with two separate plot lines. So let's get on with it. And let's start off with the first one. Oliver Rowland won quite convincingly from a returning to the podium Nick de Vries, who's his first podium in what, 2-3 years? And Jake Dennis ended up getting the podium as well, which is good for the former series champion. But it wasn't all his own way, was it, for Oliver Rowland? I mean, he didn't get pole position, that went to Taylor Barnard. Another driver who had similar bad luck to Taylor Barnard, who finished down in 15th place, was a driver who, well, I mean, he finished slightly higher up. He finished in 7th, Dan Ticktum, who qualified 3rd. But what happened off the start was Nick de Vries got a massive jump. Ticktum boxed himself in behind Rowland, and with de Vries on the outside, de Vries just went round the outside at Saint Devote. It was a heroic move into Saint Devote. But elsewhere, there were other strong performances, the likes of Ada Mortara or Nico Muller. In fact, it was generally, in both races, good races for Swiss drivers. With Mortara and Muller up at the top. Seb Buemi didn't really have the best race in race 1 though. He was well down the order. He qualified 20th, finished 19th. But he wasn't as unlucky as someone like Antonio Felix da Costa. I mean, I say unlucky. It was a dive into Anthony Nogan. He was diving on someone who was diving. It was always going to end up with contact. But to wrap yourself into the barrier in that kind of way, that was unlucky. But it was an opportunistic lunge by somebody who just wanted to try and make up a lot of ground. Again, the double champion really needed to try and make up some ground in that race, given that he qualified down in 15th, who was just trying to push through the order. The second race was defined by the safety car. Now, in race 1, we did have, 2 VSCs? But in the second race, we had a full safety car. And that was, because of Nico Muller, who went off into Casino Square, into the barrier, and they had to take some of the barrier away to be able to move the car off the track. I think he only had a VSC for when Degrassi crashed, and Degrassi's crash was a lot like Da Costa's crash, in a way. An opportunistic lunge, and ended up in the barrier. The difference was that Da Costa was going into Anthony Nogue, and he hit the inside wall. Degrassi just overshot Portier and went plumb into the wall. Isn't that the same kind of crash that Senna had, in a way? Because he crashed at Portier that year in Monaco. But, yeah. Either way, it was what defined the race, because there were some drivers who had been very clever with their attack modes and saved them up. I mean, Rowland thought that he had it in the bag, but in the end, it was an overshoot down at the Nouvelle Chicane that really cost him the win. And I say that, it was an even more convincing win, however, for Seb Buemi, who now is the undisputed leader in terms of most FE race wins at 14. It was his first win in years, and Envision's first win since they won the Teams Championship a couple of years ago as well. It was the first Jaguar Powertrain win since Sao Paulo. Jaguar got a double podium with Nick Cassidy in 3rd place, and Oliver Rowland slotted into the middle of it all as well. But it was a brilliant drive by Buemi, who hasn't had the most, fortunate of seasons, I'd say. And I'd say that across all disciplines. I wouldn't just say that in Formula E, I'd also say that in WEC. But this one came good for him. It was a wet to not dry, but drying race. And it really showcased the success of these all-weather Hankook tyres. Now, it's something that we should talk about, Hankook as a tyre constructor. I probably will do my own video about that at some point, because of course Hankook now do the WRC as well. But the main difference between the Hankook construction and the Michelin construction is that the Hankook one is a lot more performance oriented. Both of them were all-weather tyres. You don't have slicks in Formula E. But the difference between what Michelin were doing and what Hankook is doing Michelin said, oh, we just want to have it be proper road tyres. And so that's why they were the Michelin pilot line. It's the same thing as to why Michelin didn't go back to F1 or decide to go for the WRC tender. But Hankook are happy to play the more kind of performance-y game as well as trying to link it to real-world technologies. So, for instance, with Formula E, they can have ones that are a bit more like circuit racing tyres, but are still groove tyres. In the WRC, they can work around things like grip parameters, but at the same time, when you're out on the stages, you're not going to be using, you know, what was previously like the Pirelli Scorpion tyre on a European highway, are you? But let's talk about the standings now. We'll start off with the drivers' standings. Oliver Rowland is nearly 2 races in hand now over second and third place, because separated by 1 point in second and third are the Porsches, with Taylor Barnard in 4th, Nick De Vries in 5th, Jake Dennis in 6th. Barnard is 12 points off of Wehrlein, De Vries only 2 points behind Taylor Barnard, and then Jake Dennis in 6th is 8 points back from De Vries, only 2 points ahead of Gunther, who's only 3 points ahead of Mortara. The top 10 being rounded out by John-Eric Verne on 34 and Buemi himself on 31. He only scored 6 points coming into the weekend. In fact, I think Envision ended up scoring more points in that Monaco second race from Buemi's win than they had all season up to this point. And yeah, the team's championship does actually demonstrate this even further, because Porsche are leading on 133. Unsurprising, they are second and third in the standings, but Nissan are only 7 points behind, so they're going to be hoping that Nato comes back into the kind of form that we saw him have in Miami, where he got pole position. Mahindra are in third place. Now, given how far down the order Mahindra were last year, this is a wonderful recovery for Mahindra. Penske are in 4th, and Mahindra are 35 points behind Nissan. Penske are 15 points behind Mahindra, but are 6 points clear of McLaren in 5th, who are only 2 points clear of Andretti in 6th. Jaguar have had their best weekend since the season opener. They're now on 50 points and 18 points behind Andretti. Maserati are on 46 in 8th. Envision, yeah, they're on 39 points now in 9th place, whilst the Lola Yamaha Apt team still only have 1 point score on the board this season, which was the second place for Lucas Di Grassi in Miami. They are joint on points now with Cupra Kiro, though Kiros have been spread over multiple race events. And in both those cases, it's been the senior driver who has done better. I mean, I say senior driver. Di Grassi is a Formula E veteran. He's a Formula E champion. Dan Ticktum is the more senior of the drivers compared to David Beckman. But David Beckman's a rookie. That said, I forgot how long Dan Ticktum's been in Formula E now. It's been a good few seasons. And he is showing promises of what we saw in his junior career. We're not showing as much as the tempers as he saw during the junior career, but I mean, we had that mistake going down the hill out of Casino Square, didn't we? Into Mirabeau. It's very cool they managed to turn that around in a flick, but it was an aggressive move that just didn't pay off and ended up costing him in the race. Anyways, those are my thoughts, those are my feelings. That is my overview for Formula E in Monaco. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, folks. Thank you so much for watching. And until next time, it's bye-bye for now.